Good afternoon everybody, and a very warm welcome to Mildenhall and District, and my name's Susanna and I live with trains, and this is video 3 of 3, and this is on my Accurascale class 66, and this is basically not a review. This is just my thoughts on my experience that I've had with Accurascale themselves as well as with the Loco. And actually, I do actually have a link with this particular locomotive. And for that, I have to thank Accurascale because they chose the right locomotive. So we start by, well, at the beginning, really, which is, I have to admit, I wasn't going to get an Accurascale 66. That wasn't on my radar, really. And so I never pre-ordered one. It was never a pre-order, so the class 66s has just started filtering through, and I thought, actually, I do want one. So I started hunting around for 66s, and I was on the Accurascale website, and they didn't really have much left because they were so popular that most of the models had gone. But there were a few available, and fortunately for me, the one that actually meant something to me was actually still available. Now, unfortunately though, at the time, the one that I bought was DCC ready. It was £169.99, and I was just grateful to get it. But I found out a couple of days later that I don't know what had happened, but I'm assuming maybe one or two people cancelled, that there became a couple of sound ones available, and I wasn't aware of this. I just thought, let me just get this one whilst I can, and I can put the sound in it afterwards. And at the time, the sound fitted one was actually sold out, but I think maybe Accurascale had one or two cancellations or something, and so some of those particular sound fitted ones of that particular livery became available. But it was too late. But what I will say about Accurascale, and I'll come on to the Locomotive shortly, is that my experience with their customer service, I have to say, isn't the best. I've raved about, and I'm very kind of, I like to think I'm fair about when I talk about customer service from people. And like, if they don't give me good customer service, I'll say it. But if they do give me good customer service, I will equally say that they gave me good customer service. Just like with Revolution Trains, you know, that was just fantastic, the way that they handled my TEA tanker issue without me even asking. So, you know, and so it was obviously credit where credit is due. But at the same time, I just feel like with Accurascale, it was a bit lacking. And that's my honest opinion. I don't know if any of you guys feel the same. Please feel free to comment down below, and on the next video I will go through your comments and see what you think, because I ordered it direct from their website. Their website said it was in stock, so when I ordered it, I half expected that it was going to get here a lot quicker than it did. I got an initial email from them to say that I paid for it and that the order had been completed, but then I absolutely heard nothing from them for pretty much a whole week before it eventually arrived on my doorstep. And I literally got the confirmation that it was shipped literally, like I said, a week after I'd paid for it. So there was nothing in between. So I wasn't really sort of sure what the deal was and whether there was an issue, because in this day and age we're kind of sort of half expecting that things to be quite quick. I remember that ordering stuff from Hatton's, and even from, you know, back in the day when they were around, you were literally getting it the next day or 2 days. It was certainly out the next day. So, and they always kept you in the loop. And even Rails of Sheffield, when I've ordered stuff from Rails of Sheffield, they've been pretty sharpish about sending stuff out and keeping you in the loop. Accurascale, I don't find that that is the case. I've had other bits, wagons as well, but I just find it um, yeah, that their customer service could be a bit better, to be honest. Like I said, at least to keep me in the loop. But I literally heard nothing for virtually a week, and then I eventually get an email to say that it's on its way to me. So you kind of left hanging and more like wondering, because like I said, everyone else seems to get it sent out the next day. You kind of think, well, maybe everybody should be doing the same. And I can understand it when it's like you're buying something from a private seller on eBay, where maybe what they're selling isn't their main job in life. They're just selling some stuff that they want to get rid of, and they'll just get to the post office as and when they can. But when you're thinking about companies who are like dedicated to kind of like selling this stuff, and you kind of half expect that it would have got here quicker. So that's kind of my first gripe with Accurascale. My second gripe with Accurascale was the way it arrived. I got a message from DPD to tell me that they were going to deliver it to me, and credit to DPD, they delivered it to me virtually at the beginning of the time slot that they said. But my gripe was actually with Accurascale because of the box in which they sent it in, which I think was absolutely, really ridiculous, to be honest. So this is the box that they sent this in, right? And you can see just how big this box is. And you're thinking to yourself, and you can see this is the original packaging that it came in. And you think, well, that's why they've given you this big box, because they want to make sure it got packaged properly so it didn't get damaged to you. No. What I found was that all this packaging that was on the top of the Locomotive. So basically, the box was basically sitting on the bottom here. The Loco was sitting on the bottom here with no protection on the bottom, and then all the packaging was on the top. So that kind of negates the fact that you're protecting the product that you're sending out. Then you look at the actual width of the box itself, and the width of the box was literally the width of the box of the Locomotive itself. Of the Locomotive box itself. So again, there was no protection on the sides. So it kind of makes you wonder why they even put it in such a big box to begin with, because if you're not going to put any protection on the bottom, you're not going to put any protection on the sides, and you're just going to shove it on the top, it's not really well protected. And so this is such stuff that I'm sort of giving as a customer as feedback. I'm not deliberately trying to have a go or have a rant at Accurascale, but it's just a gripe that I just think that it's just like you could do better. Because it's like there's no point sort of putting all this protection on it when you're not even protecting it properly. So, that's kind of, like I said, and I should know a thing or two about packaging because I used to work in the packaging industry and I used to do it myself. So I do know, how to do it properly. And to me, this wasn't done properly because if they threw this in the back of the van and it landed on the bottom, there was no protection for the box of the Locomotive. So another gripe that I have with the 66 isn't actually with the 66 itself. Again, it's just to do with just tidying up things. It's to do with the instructions. Now, I've never owned a Class 66 before from Accurascale, as many people haven't either as they're new. But I've never owned any other diesel locomotive from them. And that includes their 37s and the 50s. And so somebody who doesn't know anything about how you fit a decoder into the 66 is that there's a panel on the top on the 66 that you just easily lift off to access the decoder. And that in itself sounds simple enough. And there's a saying, it's only simple if you know how. Now, credit to Accurascale, the actual fit was so well done that it's very difficult to see you know, which bit you take off. But because it made it so difficult for you to see to take off, then it would have been helpful if the instructions made it abundantly clear which panel you're supposed to take off. And like I said, it sounds simple enough. So I got some information that came with the Accurascale, and this is the thing that I want to sort of take from it, is that it says this is the Locomotive's operator manual, but it isn't. It's just a load of pictures with 66s, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm not knocking it because it looks absolutely brilliant, and you know, you get a lot of information of all the various locomotives. You get all these clear, lovely, clear colour photographs and pictures, and that's what I'm really getting at. You know, you get a lovely photographs, and that's great. Then you come to this. This is the actual instruction manual that you get with it. And again, you've got a nice clear photograph here of a picture of a 66. But then everything else, there isn't much. This is just an exploded diagram. There's no colour pictures, nothing. And what let's say annoys me, what bugged me was that I'm an experienced modeller, and I don't consider myself stupid, but it just says on here in text, which it says basically, please lift part 108 out, and part 108 is referring to the exploded diagram. Now, if they've gone through all the trouble of putting these lovely colour photographs of all these various 66s and put a nice picture of a 66 on the front, could they not have put a colour photograph somewhere in here to show you exactly which panel you're looking at, so you didn't have to try and look at and decipher what the exploded diagram is trying to tell you? Because it's not overly difficult. I'm not saying it's complicated, but what I'm saying is it might be complicated to other people. And it just seems like, you know, what they could have done is they could have either highlighted that particular part that you needed to remove and put an arrow there and actually circle it and say, oh, this is part 108 that you remove, or something like that, or put a half decent, you know, colour picture of the actual panel and a slightly distant view of the body, so you can see which end of the locomotive it's from. And instead, you know, they haven't done that. So because the panel was so snugly fit, it did take a little bit of working out, in my view, and I just think that they could have done a bit better with that, to be honest. And I'll give you a demonstration. This is a Helgen manual for my 33. Now, obviously, there's people out there who've got their own opinions on Helgen locomotives, but one thing you can't say anything about is their instruction manual currently. That is their exploded diagram. That's fine, but that doesn't tell you about the decoder, where to put it. But here, you've actually got a proper colour photograph with proper instructions on it to show you exactly where the decoder goes. And to me, I just think that is something that, again, moving forward, I think Accurascale could do better with that. Yeah, it's nice to have all the glossy pictures of all the fancy 66s, but if I wanted those, I could quite easily go on Google and get them, or take photographs myself. And like I said, it's not a gripe, it's just feedback. I just think that they could have at least made this clearer. All it was is a little bit of text referring you to an exploded diagram, which isn't, you know, to some people might not be clearly marked. And I just think, you know, could have done better with that. Now, which one did I actually go with? Well, let's have a look and see what I got. I got this. This is the Class 66 Exclusives Freightliner Orange, and this was 66415, and it's ACC 2638. there it is. And like I said, I'm really grateful and lucky to have got this one. And I am absolutely over the moon with it. You cannot argue with the quality of the 66 and the actual box of it. I'm not going to complain about that at all. I've got no complaints there. Thankfully, the 66 arrived and it was fine and it all worked and everything seems to be working. So it's just, like I said, it was just the way that it's the customer service side and the packaging side that I think they could improve on. But like I said, the Locomotive itself was absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely amazing, to be honest. And I loved the box. I loved all the details with it and the information that came with it. I do have a link to this very Locomotive, like I mentioned in the beginning. And the link is, well, actually, let me just talk to you about the nameplate as well. And it says, "You are never alone." And it's in aid of the Samaritans. To be honest, this Locomotive has actually got quite a lot of meaning to me. Because I've gone through some really tough stuff in my life. And I've been to some very, very dark places in my life. And recently it's been a little bit on the rough side. Not to the extent that it has been previously, but I have had my turbulent times of late. And it has affected me quite a lot. And sometimes, so I am prone to getting a bit down in the dumps about things. And it's quite nice to see a reminder on my railway to say, "You are never alone." Because it's true. I'm not alone. Sometimes I think I am, and sometimes I think it's tough, and I find it difficult to cope with certain things. And so it was quite nice to actually have that as a reminder on my layout. And the thing is, my actual link to this very Locomotive is the fact that I've actually, as a Class 66, Class 66s, as we all know, are freight trains. So you never actually ever ride behind a 66. But I have actually ridden behind a Class 66 on the Watercress line. Behind that one. Which I think is absolutely amazing. I've actually ridden behind this very 66. Because when I heard that the 66 was coming to the Watercress line, this was a couple of years back, Freightliner sent it over. And we didn't know which one they were sending, and it was this one. And unfortunately, I can't find the footage for it or the photographs. I know I took it, and I don't know what I've done with it. For love nor money, I cannot find it. I'm really gutted because I've been looking everywhere for it. I know I went behind it because as soon as I knew that it was going to be announced, I just wanted to ride behind a 66, and that was the 66 they sent. And so that Class 66 has got a lot of meaning to me. It's such a shame that I don't actually have sound in it. I will put sound in it because it deserves it and it means a lot. And it's a very personal Locomotive to me in more ways than one, as I've just explained. So I'm very grateful to Accurascale. I mean, obviously unbeknownst to them, but that I have that link to this very Class 66. And it's an absolute peach of a Locomotive. It really is. It's absolutely beautiful. One of the things that struck me about this particular 66 is the lighting itself. Actually, before I get onto the lighting, I should mention, now we're on to the lighting, that because this is a DCC ready Locomotive and not a DCC sound fitted, I was trying to work out what was the best chip to buy for that. And I knew I needed a multifunction chip. And I haven't actually messed around with the switches because obviously you get a little card. Those of you who've got the Accurascale will know that you get a little card inside. And it tell you that if you use a ESU chip, you do it one way. And if you use another standard chip, you can just turn the switches to another way, and you should get the correct lighting functions. Now, because I'm putting sound into this at some point, I wasn't particularly bothered about the lighting as such being 100% accurate as long as it worked in both directions, because at the end of the day, I've got, I've been living with Batman Class 66s for God knows how many years now, and they're still a great model, don't get me wrong, but their lights have always been configured incorrectly, their headlights, and it's not an uncommon issue. It's not like anyone hasn't mentioned it before, so it doesn't really bother me too much. So when people start going, oh well, this shouldn't be like this and this shouldn't be like that, and that's wrong and that's bothering me, and I lose sleep over it. It's okay, fair enough. Honestly, to me, it's like, I've got Class 66s with Batman, and I haven't lost sleep with the fact that it's got the wrong configuration of lights. And I think I've got maybe one or two others which don't even have lights at all. So you kind of got to put things into perspective. But I just wanted to make sure that it was all working, and so I ran it on DCC. All the lights worked on DCC. It wasn't a problem. And when I spoke to Paul at my local model shop, he suggested that you can get the ESU that Accurascale are recommending on their website. But at the time of filming, I think Accurascale still haven't got it, or you have to pre-order that particular chip. But I don't want to wait around forever and ever. I just want to be able to run it. Now, Paul said to me that if you buy the ESU chip, you might still, the lighting configurations might not still be 100% correct. And because you might need remapping of the chip. Whereas if you buy it direct from Accurascale, they've probably done that work for you. So all you have to do is plug and play, and the lighting function should match what's on the card, which is in the box. But for me, it was like, well, he basically said to me, look, you can buy the chip, but the light configuration might not work properly as it should, and you might have to, and I can always remap it later or something. And I'm like, look, I'm not really that bothered, honestly. Like I said, I'm not going to lose sleep over it just because the light configurations are slightly out, or it's not quite right, or whatever. I've got better things to do with my life than be thinking about losing sleep over things like that. But that's, like I said, I'm not having a go at anybody if they are like that. It's just, it's just not me. So I actually put a Dapol chip in it, and this is a Dapol Imperium decoder. So that's what I got, a Dapol Imperium decoder. So this comes under the card which says other chips. So so you have to set the switches to to this other chip setting, which I haven't done yet. Whether I do, I don't know. Like I said, so it all works, and it's kind of like the Hatton 66. It works. So that's I'm really pleased with it. And the other thing for buying a Dapol is, because I know that this chip probably won't stay in this Locomotive for very long, or well, it might do. I don't know. It depends when I get around to putting the sound chip in it. To me, I wanted to get a small chip, because some of these 21-pin chips can be quite big, and then that becomes a problem when you buy other 21-pin chips, locomotives, because I found that some of my 21-pin chip locomotives won't take certain chips because it needs a smaller size chip to fit in it, as opposed to the regular size chip that you get for the 21-pin. Because sometimes there isn't the space in the Locomotive. So as a kind of future-proof thing, I've bought the Dapol chip, which is slightly smaller in size, and I know that will fit on any Locomotive, and the size isn't going to be a problem. So let me spin you around and you can have a look at it. So this is my all-new Accurascale Class 66 in the Freightliner Exclusives range. You are not alone. Once again, something to always bear in mind. And it's been a real kind of cool link to have with this locomotive, to be able to say that I've actually ridden behind this very locomotive in these colours. So I'm really, really pleased about that. And that kind of concludes my look at this Accurascale Class 66. The actual box itself, the Class 66 itself, the running quality's top notch, 10 out of 10. But like I said, the customer service side and the packaging side could do with a bit of improvement. But I'm totally made up with this one. I do actually have another one on its way to me too. So we'll take a look at that one when that one arrives as well. But this is my first of two. And until the next time, my name's Susanna and I live with trains. Goodbye.